Okay, it is 5:31, and I will call this meeting of the Local Area Formation Commission to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll to establish quorum?
Yes. Commissioner Frost?
Here.
Jones? Here. Carter?
Here.
Little?
Here.
Kaplan?
Here.
Walton?
Here.
And Chair Desmond.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, please read the statement. I'll read the introductory statement after the pledge.
Okay. The meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and AT&T UVerse
Recording in
cable
progress.
system. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. This meeting replays Wednesday, June 19th at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com//Metro Cable 14. The Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission fosters public engagement during the meeting and encourages public participation, civility, and use of courteous language. The board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to make a public comment and are limited to making one comment per agenda or off-agenda item. Please be mindful of the public comment procedures to avoid being interrupted or disconnected while making your comment. Please fill out a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk's staff. The chairperson will open comments for each agenda or off-agenda item and direct the clerk to call the name of each speaker. When the clerk calls your name, please come to the podium and make your comment. If a speaker is unavailable to make a comment prior to the closing of public comments, the speaker waives their request to speak, and the clerk will file their speaker request form in the record. The clerk will manage the timer and allow each speaker 2 minutes to make a comment. You may send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. If you need an accommodation pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act or for medical or other reasons, please see clerk staff for assistance or contact the clerk's office at 916-874-5451 or by email at boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Thank you in advance for your courtesy and understanding of the meeting procedures. Before the recording came on, we do have a quorum for the record.
Thank you, Larice. And I'd ask everybody to please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to read a brief introductory script that we occasionally, semi-regularly make at the beginning of LAFCo meetings, because LAFCo is an agency that's often steeped in a little bit of mystery with the public. I am the chair. The commissioners up here with me on the dais are volunteer citizens appointed by the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. Our role is to oversee boundary changes of cities and special districts, the formation of new agencies, including the incorporation of new cities and districts, and the consolidation or reorganization of special districts and/or cities. The broad goals of the Commission's directive are to ensure the orderly formation of local governmental agencies, to preserve agricultural and open space lands, and to discourage urban sprawl. Commissions must, by law, create municipal service reviews and update spheres of influence for each independent local governmental jurisdiction within their county-wide jurisdiction. Sacramento LAFCo joins with LAFCos across the state in working diligently to comply with the new statute, and in doing so, accepting more responsibility towards overseeing the orderly provision of local government services. And I want to welcome everybody here this evening. It's not often we see so many guests in the chambers, so thank you for being here. I am going to try to we'll get through the consent items and I think the business items. I'd like to get through those before we get to the public hearing item, public comment item, which is at 6 o'clock. So with that, Madam Clerk, we'll go to our first item, item 1.
Okay, it's a consent calendar to approve items 2 through 4.
Well, before that, so why don't we do, I think item 1 is off-agenda public comment?
You're correct. Do we have any other off-agenda public comment? The only public comment I have are for item 5.
Okay, so this for off agenda, just so you're clear here, off agenda is for an item that is not otherwise on tonight's agenda. So, and Madam Clerk, were you taking speaker slips or
Yes.
are they just, okay. Do you have speaker slips for off agenda comment?
No, I do not, and none online.
Oh, you do here. You do now. We do now.
Oh, okay.
We saw you had some job.
Yeah, I think that might be off agenda.
Okay. You think these are all off agenda? Or just the first one? Just the first one. Okay, I have one for Mark Velasquez. Okay. Good evening. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, commissioners and staff. Probably remember me as the cemetery guy. I apologize for being so informally dressed today. I got to run off to a barbecue right after this. But I was a little disappointed not to see municipal service review approval for a municipal service review for cemeteries. Maybe I've not received the most up-to-date information, but according to the agenda, the cemetery MSR has not been authorized yet or approved yet. So I'm here to make sure this process continues for cemeteries. Sorry, just lost my train of thought there. It dawned on me that maybe it's not there because there might need to be some type of authorization from the city or the county board. I don't know. If that's the case, then I'd request your executive director advise you and me of what you need to get either the city approval or county approval to get the MSR done. In other words, if one of you commissioners need to go to get it on the agenda for the city council or county supervisor agenda so that it gets approved on that agenda to come back to LAFCo so the MSR happens, then that's fine. Let's just know that so we could get this process moving along. So I would ask the executive director to advise you and preferably me as well as to what's needed to actually get this MSR for cemeteries in this county moving forward. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. And Jose, I'll follow up with you at this on this topic. Okay, it looks like the rest of any other off-agenda public comments? Okay, it looks like everything else is on item number 5. So now we'll take consent, please, Madam Clerk.
Okay, consent calendar, items 2 through 4 for your approval.
Okay, are there any board members with questions or items you'd like to pull for discussion? Seeing none.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Kaplan, a second by Commissioner Jones. Any public comment on the consent calendar?
No, I do not have any public comment.
Okay, well then, please vote.
The motion passes and your vote is unanimous with all members present.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to skip item 5 for now. We'll move on to item 6.
Item 6 is consider nominations to the LAFCo Achievement Awards.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, every year LAFCo honors people or organizations in various categories for something that's worthwhile, notable, and should be celebrated. As you saw from the staff memo from LAFCo, they have various they have various categories in which LAFCo can nominate an individual or an organization for an award. So this is brought to you on their request in case you wanted to nominate someone. The nominations must be received no later than Saturday, August 31st. So if you're not ready today, it can certainly be brought back at a later meeting for you to consider. But the categories are pretty broad. Just by way of, I've got 2 disclosures to give you on that. Number one, I sit on the committee that decides. Who gets the award. So anything that you decide, I may need to recuse myself depending on what it is. And then second thing that you should know is that I have also been asked by one of my colleagues in another LAFCo to be a co-nominator for one of my colleagues. I'm not going to relate the name in case this person is spying on us. So I do have someone, I am participating in one of the nominations for an individual for the awards, but that's the extent of my presentation. And, again, you can nominate someone or organization at today's meeting, or we can bring it back in August for you to consider.
Okay, thank you, Jose. Any questions from board members or commission members? I don't see any public comments on this item.
We do not have any public comments on this item.
Okay. So I'm seeing on this one, what action are you asking us to take on this one, Jose?
This is in case you wanted to nominate someone or an organization in there. I briefly thought about nominating SAC-SUR for their reorganization last year. The thing is that I'm not sure whether they qualify now because it's supposed to be within the last 12 months.
Okay.
And I think we're just outside that window.
Except it just went into effect now. Like it just went into effect, so I think that would still potentially be within the timeline.
Yeah. We can certainly make that argument because the legislation kicked in January 1st. I think there used to be actually a very clear Courage in Government award, but now it's kind of fudged. So, if you wanted to nominate that, we can certainly do it. We'll find a category for it. Certainly, be organizing into one. There's so many logistical pieces to it. I think it's a worthy candidate. But it's up to you.
I actually really appreciate that recommendation as a member of the sewer board and having, I've been there just the last year and a half, watching the amount of effort that it has taken and staff time to do it and do it very smoothly, keep all the employees. I think SAC-SUR does deserve to be recognized. I think Christoph and his team have done an amazing job. So I would like to nominate.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kaplan to nominate SAC-SUR, a second by Commissioner Frost. Any other nominations from commissioners? Seeing none, please vote on the nomination on the floor.
The nomination on the floor passes. The motion passes, and the vote is unanimous.
And do you need anything else on this right now?
No, not for now.
Okay, that'll take us to item 7.
Item 7 is consider the nominations for the LAFCo Board of Directors, nominate Commissioner Jones as candidate for the Special District Representative, and designate the voting delegate at the LAFCo Conference.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, this is a two-piece item. The first one being that right now they're open for nominations for 2 board seats in the Central Region. That's where Sacramento LAFCo resides. And one of them is a special district representative, who at the moment is Commissioner Jones. And then the other one is for a county member. Those 2 pieces, you would need to act to nominate, and then staff will work with your nominees to fill out the appropriate paperwork and submit it. The Commissioner Jones has requested to be renominated for special district representative. And then in case either Commissioner Desmond or Commissioner Frost wanted to go for the LAFCo board, you can also have that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Frost.
I nominate Director Jones for the district representation.
I'll second it.
And I won't be here, so I guess it's you, Chair Desmond.
If you wish to add extra things onto your plate.
Would you be interested, or
I would rather pass on that if that is okay with everybody, but I certainly support the nomination of Commissioner Jones, who has served ably and in a very distinguished way for this body. Are there any other? So the only could another commissioner be nominated?
No, not for the county
okay.
or special district.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments from commission members? Don't see any public comments on this item.
We do not have any public comments on this item. Let me just be clear that the nominations were just for Jones for special
Yes.
districts? Okay, thank you. You may
For
vote.
Commissioner Jones.
Your vote is unanimous with all members present.
Okay, well, there's really nothing else on the agenda we can get to until the end Unless our executive director, do you have a report you could give now? Your executive director comments?
Yes, I need to confer with council, but the grand jury just issued one of its reports relating to Florin County Water District. It's odd because LAFCo was invited to comment. It was not required, but invited to comment. However, one of the recommendations was for LAFCO to take a certain action, which is basically to do the MSR on Florin County Water District. So this will be brought back to you at your August meeting for consideration and direction, so that we can consider at that point, number one, the authorization to do the MSR. But number two, I need to confer with council about what exactly are we doing? Are we responding, or are we just going to take start the MSR? Because I'm frankly unsure. I'm leaning towards you should just respond, but again, the invitation to respond kind of threw me off.
And commissioners, there's statutory rules on how to respond and who must respond in the statute. So many of you are familiar with if it's directed to the city council or that, then it's an action by the council to do the response. So I don't know because I haven't seen and look at, but we'll evaluate it. And if for some reason the response is due prior to your next meeting and it must be a commission response, the executive officer can correspond and then we can bring that back. So we will respond with any deadlines, and if it's something that the commission must act on, we'll bring it at the next meeting.
The response is within 90 days, so I checked the calendar, so we would be fine with considering at the August meeting. And then speaking of water districts, for you and also the members of the public who would like to participate, staff will be sending out notices to the registered voters and landowners of the Del Paso Manor Water District, inviting them to an open house on July 16th at the El Camino Fundamental High School. And in it, we basically will be talking about what led LAFCo to take the action in May to adopt a resolution of intent to dissolve for Del Paso Manor, what the commission considered, and what the next steps is going to be in the process. Because there was briefly, I think it's kind of been dispelled, but briefly, there was a rumor that the LAFCO had dissolved the district, but that's not the case. They've got 12 months to remedy. And so we will also be bringing in, we're hoping to invite someone from Sac Metro Fire to participate as well to talk about fire flow and the importance of that. So this is more of an information, not gathering, but information dissemination to the residents of Del Paso Manor, so that they can understand essentially what the LAFCO action takes place and what steps they can take as a result of the LAFCO actions. And so that's again July 16th. It's on a Tuesday night from 6 to 7:30.
Great, and thank you, Jose, for doing that. Apparently, I will be there because it's on my calendar, and I will appreciate the opportunity to be there and participate and listen. And I think it's incredibly important to always to reiterate why this commission has taken the action that it's taken. Okay, anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay. And I'll give you a chance if you have comments following item 5, of course. Any comments not related to item 5 from commissioners, since we have a few more minutes?
Chair?
Commissioner Kaplan.
Quick question following up on the public comment on items not on the agenda. I believe I remember seeing the list and the schedule of the MSRs. Wasn't a cemetery review part of one of the MSRs, or am I mistaken?
That's one of the notes that I actually wrote down. I believe that as part of the communications plan that you adopted a few months back, it talked about the MSRs that will be taken and the order in which they will be taken, and cemetery districts was part of I think was phase 1, right? Yeah. However, he's the second person to bring up cemetery districts here in Sacramento County. As you know, there was another gentleman, I think he contacted your office.
It's actually the same one.
Okay. So cemetery districts it was part of the plan, but they weren't up there. I think water districts had the top priority, and then followed by fire. So it'd be something that kind of discussed with the commission. Maybe we'll bring back that communication plan for you to, basically direct staff in terms of what the priority is, because funds are limited. So we can undertake one very large district, or we can take several districts. Now that we have this recommendation from the grand jury about the Florin County Water District, that also is going to be, a factor into that.
So I think that would actually be good just to bring that back in light of new information and get commission direction based off of all of that information. And then can you just inform Mr. Velasquez, and potentially send him that schedule of communications to show him where it's at?
Yeah, we'll do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jose. So we are on recess until 6 p.m. Okay, it's 6 p.m. and I'll call the meeting back to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll to reestablish the quorum.
Commissioners Frost? Here. Jones?
Here.
Carter?
Here.
Little?
Here.
Kaplan?
Here.
Walton?
Here.
And Chair Desmond?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, we'll start with item 5.
Item 5 is receive public comment on the City of Sacramento's Sphere of Influence amendment and reorganization of the Airport South Industrial Project, LAFCo project number 07-21, Environmental Impact Report.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the item before you is to receive public comment on the draft EIR that's currently in circulation. All you're doing is receiving comment. You're not taking any action as part of this agenda item. The EIR was prepared based on the Memorandum of Understanding between LAFCo and the City of Sacramento to prepare a joint EIR for this project. The EIR encompasses several pieces. It encompasses the LAFCO actions or potential LAFCO actions to amend the sphere of influence for the City of Sacramento and to reorganize the parcel into the City of Sacramento. For the City of Sacramento, the items that they're covering is basically the land use entitlements and a potential project of actual development of the project site. Again, the reiteration is that there is no action being taken tonight as part of the CEQA process. A draft EIR is circulated to the public and to other agencies and responsible agencies for them to review and provide comment on the proposal or on the environmental review on the CEQA. Those comments are then gathered and responded to on the record, and they become part of the final EIR, which is adopted at a later date. Right now, we have a 45-day public comment period, which will expire on July, let me get the date right, July 17th, 2024. Comments are taken up to July 17th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Right now, the city and LAFCO are coordinating because the city has a slightly larger staff than LAFCO does. They're the ones who are actually compiling the comments. And on the last page of the staff report, we provide the address by which written comments can be submitted. Obviously, comments can be provided tonight, but in order for the spirit and the letter of the comment being provided by the public, we strongly encourage a written submission of comments so that we capture both the spirit and the intent of the letter in writing. But of course, a comment can be provided tonight. I indicate on page 2 what the basic principles of the MOU. I'm not going to cover them. What I am going to cover is the sections that the EIR covers, and that includes air quality, noise, population and housing, utilities, public services, parks, aesthetics, land use, geology and soils, hydrology, drainage and water quality, agricultural resources, biological resources, cumulative impacts, and project alternatives. From a LAFCO standpoint, it's the public services that we at LAFCO pay more attention to. But in addition to, there's hydrology and water quality, the agricultural resources, and the alternative analysis. The proposed project includes the development of an industrial park with an approximately 353.5 acre portion of the project site, and it's located immediately south of Bayou Road The industrial park would allow for the construction of 5,204,500 square feet of industrial uses on approximately 235.6 acres, as well as the approximate use of 98,200 square feet of retail highway commercial uses and approximately 73,400 square feet of hotel and hospitality. Not all of the parcels within the project are part of this development. There's the participating parcels and the non-participating parcels. The non-participating parcels basically were studied as if the maximum allowed under CEQA for intense uses, since we don't have a project or a development proposal for those projects. Everything else, the development was evaluated based on what I just indicated about the retail, industrial, and commercial uses. For the executive officer comments, I want to state several things. Number one, I want to reiterate that there's no decision being made on the actual proposal at this meeting. At this meeting, you're just receiving public comment. No decision will be taken at public comment. It's not as agendized as such. And so the commission is not considering the project or the EIR or the sphere of influence amendment at this meeting. Second, this hearing is basically is just to review the draft EIR. The main consultant will be introduced shortly, and he'll be providing that overview. Public comments certainly can be taken and received at this meeting. Just for purposes of the public, wanted to kind of go over what the process is going to be. So right now is the receipt of public comment on the draft EIR. The public review period, again, ends on July 17th at 5 p.m. Those comments will then be evaluated and incorporated into the final EIR, which will be taken up later on. The later on means basically sometime in the fall, the commission will consider a targeted municipal service review for the city of Sacramento, a request by the landowner to amend the sphere of influence for the city of Sacramento, and the adoption of the final EIR. It's a public hearing. Public comments can be provided and will be heard at that time. Should the commission approve the SOI amendment, it then goes to the city for the city to evaluate the land use entitlements, for them to evaluate a tentative map and to provide the pre-zoning, as well as a potential request to LAFCo to annex that parcel into the city of Sacramento, as well as Sac Sewer and a few other reorganizational matters. That is also a public hearing subject to public comment and public review. Should the city then take those steps and approve an application to LAFCo, it comes back to LAFCo for processing. And then at that point, it'll be brought back to the commission, again, at a public hearing with public comment and public review will be part of it. So there are multiple steps in which the public's comments can be taken throughout this process. Again, there's no decision being made tonight because those matters will be coming back later. I anticipate that an SOI request, which is again filed by the landowner, will be taken up in the fall. I don't have any firm dates yet because it's dependent upon when the final EIR will be ready, but I anticipate it will be in the fall. Should the commission approve it, I anticipate that later in the fall is when the city will take up its matters, and then I would imagine probably near the end of 2024 is when it may come back for commission action should the city request annexation. So multiple discretionary actions being taken by both bodies. No decisions have been made. And I want to reiterate that under LAFCo law, the commission could amend the SOI, but it could reject the project. You certainly have the discretion. One does not lead into the other. So with that, I want to start off by introducing Dan DePorta. He is the attorney helping us with the environmental review. And then I'd also like to introduce Rod Stinson from Rainey. He was the lead consultant who prepared the EIR, and he'll be making the presentation summarizing the EIR There are links on our website and on the city's website to actually download the document if you want to review it. But for now, we're just going to be reviewing, doing a broad overview. So with that, Rod, please.
Thank you. Rod, before you start, thank you and welcome. And thank you, Jose, for going through, I think, that exhaustive, description of the process from here on out. And I just want to underscore that this will be coming back to this body for deliberation and actual action in the fall after the final EIR, which will be informed by both written comments and comments provided tonight that will be incorporated into those the rest of the comments, and then it will possibly be coming back again, obviously, to this body if the city of Sacramento, like you said, requests annexation. So I think it's important to underscore those points, that there's a lot more opportunities for public comment and discussion and deliberation by both LAFCo and the city of Sacramento as this thing moves forward. And with that, Rod, I'll turn it over to you.
Will you bring up the presentation for me?
Metro Cable, could you please bring up the presentation for item 5? Thank you.
All right, there we go. Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. I'm Rod Stinson with Rainey Planning and Management, and I'll be presenting for you here a brief overview. Jose did such a good job of detailing the process and doing an overview of the project. I'll probably breeze through these pretty quickly so we don't double up on the information. So I'll be going over just a quick introduction and purpose for the meeting, relaying where we're at in the CEQA process, a brief description of the project, a summary of the EIR conclusions, and then we can open it up for public comment. So a notice of preparation was prepared and released, which notifies the public and agencies that an EIR is actually being prepared. And comments are received related to the scope of the EIR at that point. An EIR was drafted to address those public comments and was released for public review May 31st. The EIR and CEQA documents are available for review on the city's website and on LAFCo's website as listed here at these links. The purpose of the meeting tonight, again, is to simply receive comments on the draft EIR. It's not intended to be a question and answer session, not intended to be a discussion on the merits of the project, simply to receive comments. And because it's so important that all comments received on the draft EIR are responded to in writing in the final EIR, as Jose mentioned, the intent isn't to come up and provide responses to comments tonight verbally. We want to keep those in writing, and so we can keep track of all the comments and all the responses to make sure everything is adequately responded to in the final EIR. So again, this is a brief flowchart overview of the CEQA process. And as I mentioned, a 30-day public review associated with the NOP, the Notice of Preparation, has occurred already, and a scoping meeting was held. We are currently right here at the 45-day public review period, and we're right in the middle of it. Again, it ends July 17th, so any comments received will be responded to from comments that were received during that period. And then moving forward, we will be drafting a final EIR again that has written responses to every comment received during this 45-day period. And public hearings would occur after that. As Jose mentioned, there's a LAFCo hearing, then there's a city hearing, then it comes back to LAFCO again. So the project, starting with location, it's located in the north side of the city. I think the next slide gives a little more detail. Here we go. So the proposed project includes an area for sphere of influence amendment. That's the red area highlighted as project site. It's outside of the city's sphere of influence, outside of the city limits. It's south of the existing Metro Air Park industrial area, east of existing residential areas and a self-storage. And then there's Paso Verde School there to the southeast. Unoccupied agricultural land exists to the south, and then to the west, there's the Sacramento International Airport planning area, but also importantly, the recently adopted future EV charging station there. So the project, as described already by Jose, so I'll go through these really quickly. Sphere of influence amendment, annexation is required for the entirety of that property. There are non-participating properties, and then there's also the actual development proposal, which includes up to 6.6 million square feet of industrial warehouse uses, approximately 100,000 square feet of retail commercial uses, which includes 73,000 square feet of hotel and hospitality. And then the majority of the remainder of that site is industrial warehouse uses. No tenants have been identified yet. They're spec warehouse buildings currently. And then there's biodetention areas to handle storm runoff, et cetera. This is the existing site plan, tentative map. And so you can see those big rectangle areas. Those are the big warehouse buildings. I-5 across the north side there at the exit for Metro Air Parkway is where the main access to the site would occur, and around that area is where the highway commercial and hospitality uses would be. So the project would require the following approvals: sphere of influence amendment, as we mentioned, annexation, general plan amendment, pre-zoning, PUD, tentative map, development agreement, financing plan, property tax exchange agreement. And as Jose mentioned, the LAFCo Commission would be hearing at a later date the sphere of influence amendment, and then the land use approvals would go to the city, and should the city approve annexation, then the annexation application would then come back to LAFCO. So for the environmental analysis, the draft EIR included an evaluation and assessment of all the required CEQA topics. They're all listed here. Jose went through a list of all of them, so I won't do that again, but all of the environmental impacts were identified to be either no impact, less than significant impact, or less than significant with mitigation included, except for aesthetics, agricultural resources, and air quality, GHG, and energy. Those, I'll go into a little bit more detail here, but those were had impacts that were identified as significant and unavoidable, meaning that even with implementation of all feasible mitigation measures, those impacts would remain significant after mitigation. So I'll list those here briefly. Aesthetics analysis identified that the project would substantially degrade the existing visual character and quality of the site from public views, both in the project level and cumulative scenarios. And then again, for agricultural resources, the analysis identified potentially significant and unavoidable impacts to prime farmland, both by the state's definition and from LAFCo's definition of prime farmland. And those were both identified for project level and cumulative. The air quality, greenhouse gas, and energy potential impacts were identified and analyzed in one chapter. So the chapter identified that criteria pollutants from operations of the project site would be significant and unavoidable, both in the project level and in cumulative. So with that, the intent again for this meeting is to receive public comments. Again, written comments are strongly encouraged so that we can adequately bracket each one of those comments and make sure that they're all responded to. The public comment period closes July 17th, and the city of Sacramento is the one that is collecting all of those so that they're sort of the clearinghouse for comments to make sure that they all get in to us so they get responded to. And Scott Johnson, senior planner, here is listed, and that's where written comments can be submitted. Again, if they're submitted to LAFCo, they'll just be forwarded to Scott. So it's not like if you submitted into LAFCo, into Jose, then they're lost forever. We'll find them. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you, Rod. And I'll look to my commissioners. Any questions or comments about the presentation, either the EIR or the process at this point? Okay. Seeing none, we will. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Commissioner Kaplan.
Sorry, I turned my mic on, didn't turn on. Request to speak. For County Council, I would like to request the LAFCo Council and the City of Sacramento City Attorney submit a request for opinion from the FPPC regarding whether I have a conflict of interest in regards to 1090, specifically Government Code 18702.2. I know for a fact my residence is more than 500 feet from specifically parcel 8, which is one of the non-participating parcels, but is more than likely between 500 and 1,000 feet, which then puts me at a potential conflict, which means I could not participate in the sphere of influence. So 2 questions. One, I need to understand as a LAFCo board member whether I have a conflict since parcel 8 would have to be included in the sphere of influence if I am conflicted out from participating in this decision making because I am between 500 and 1,000 feet. And then as it also goes, if that can be separated out or it can't be separated out, I need that understanding. And for the city project, as I know the EIR looked at the entire project, parcel 5 is not participating in the development. Parcel 5, which is just north of it, which is proposed, I need an official measurement to make sure I am more than 1,000 feet away so that I can participate that. And if preclusion from one, does it preclude me from another? Because this is a potential interesting being LAFCO and city, and I am on both. And I just want to make very clear, because my resident does go into Egret Park, that I already know that I am conflicted out, and anything relating to Egret Park I have not participated in and have recused myself. But as I know that there is a question, but I know for a fact because when Paso Verde School was constructed, as a school board member, I got a legal opinion that said I could participate because I was more than 500 feet. So I would just like to be abundantly transparent with the community, whether I can participate this and be part of it and get the Fair Political Practices Commission opinion and remove it so that there is no question of whether I can participate or not, which I'm pretty sure they can get that opinion before we have to take any action in the fall.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaplan. I don't see any council. Any response? Jose, do you have a response to that or something else you wanted to add?
It's something else. 2 more pieces to my staff report. Number 1, just wanted to indicate that at least as of 4:30 this afternoon, we received approximately 30 public comments received via email. I wanted to assure those who submitted those comments that they were distributed to the commission. Many thanks to your commission clerk, because she's the one who had to send it out to you and post it on the website. We have 3 that came in at the last minute that they're in written form and they're in front of you. So I just wanted to at least reassure those folks who wrote in over the last few days that the comments have made it to the commission. Anything received after 4:30, you didn't. We were in preparation for the meeting. We just did not have time to be monitoring the email. But those will be distributed tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Second thing I wanted to say is that we received a very generous gift of strawberries from Perry's Farm. They're over here, so if you're looking for a snack, it's right there. I accepted it, so it'll go on my Form 700, so you don't have to worry about that. And that concludes the last 2 pieces.
And those are for the commissioners only. Let me just clarify that right off the bat. Okay, well, thank you, Jose. So, Madam Clerk, how many public commenters do we have?
29.
29.
For item 5.
For item 5. So I would just ask, you'll be given 2 minutes for each public comment. Madam Clerk will call your name, and I would ask, would you please maybe call out 3 names at a time? So when you're the next person in line, please just kind of get ready so we can keep this moving. And also just keep in mind that if you've already submitted a written comment, of course, that's going to be commented upon in response to the EIR, and whatever verbal comments you make here as well will be transcribed and submitted in response to the draft EIR as well. So with that, Madam Clerk,
Okay.
start with public comment.
Mr. Chair, our first 3 commenters are Harriet Steiner, Dana Schwartz, and Chris Baranti. Would you please come to the podium?
You're first, Harriet.
Hi, my name is Harriet Steiner, and I live in North Natomas at Heritage Park. And I wanted to take this opportunity to come down because many of us are very concerned about this project, even though it's not immediately adjacent to Heritage Park, that it's a precursor of what we have to see in the future. And I think this project, having looked at it, is inconsistent with LAFCo's basic policies of, not having sprawl and conserving agricultural uses. And I think that the EIR right now does not really adequately address the fact that it's inconsistent with these policies and cannot be made consistent. I also think it's inconsistent with the Natomas Basin Plan, and all the work that was put into it over these years to maintain the habitat on the flyway, to continue to provide a place for our birds and our other animals to live, and to continue maintaining the urban area compatibly with the non-urban area. And I think it's really important before either you or the city take action to change those plans and change those plan lines, that it's fully and adequately analyzed, which I do not believe the current EIR does. So I think also there's multiple adverse impacts that have been outlined by some of the comments that you got, and I won't go into them again. But I think this is a really large project. I think it will bring a huge amount of truck traffic. I think right now, as I read the traffic analysis, there is no analysis that goes beyond I-5 on Elkhorn. I don't know how often any of you drive on Elkhorn, but I will tell you that every time I stop to make a left turn on Elkhorn, I wait to see the 2 or 3 trucks who are going through the red light before I actually
Ms. Steiner,
turn.
please wrap up your comments.
And so I think that at a minimum, the traffic needs to be expanded to look at the amount of traffic it will generate and go through to Elkhorn to the east. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next commenter is Dana Schwartz.
Good evening, Dana.
Hi, Commissioners. So I appreciate that you're taking these public comments. I do also see that this report came out, 10 days ago, and now you're taking public comments? It's pretty soon to be taking public comments. It doesn't really give us enough time to really digest the draft EIR. But even what you've shown is all the horrible things that this draft EIR shows. It shouldn't be next door to a school. It shouldn't be next door to Westlake. I don't know how Lisa will want to live there with something that's ugly right next door, that it's even said so in your report. When I moved here 2.5 years ago from Oakland, it was because this area has lovely open spaces. We're near the Pacific Flyway. We get to hear beautiful snow geese all the time. I do not want more traffic, more pollution. Our neighborhoods, this is not what needs to be happening now. We are already in climate crisis. How is this going to help? This is only going to increase urban sprawl and make it harder for us to have a sustainable environmental quality and people's lives to have quality. So I am asking you for these reasons to reject this proposal. Now, I am also the head of the Progressive Study Group at Heritage Park. A lot of people who couldn't make it today asked me to come and talk for them. So I hope that you know that there are over 900 residents at Heritage Park, and none of us want to see this project and other projects that are just going to take away all our open spaces. And I have some letters from one of the residents, so I would like to leave this here. Who would I give this to?
Thank you.
And thank you for your attention.
And I'll just reiterate again, this board is not taking any action tonight about this. All this is a supplemental way to submit public comment on the EIR. And people have until July 17th to do that. So, good evening.
Hi, I'm Chris Baranti, and I live in Heritage Park, also in North Natomas. I just want to say that we butt up against the Elkhorn Boulevard and the rice fields that do make up one of the most 4 important nesting and feeding areas for migratory birds, aka the critical Pacific Flyway. I know we're not talking about that parcel of land, but it is part of the Natomas Basin Conservatory. And if you haven't had a chance to witness the migration of birds that are coming from Alaska, to and from Alaska, all the way down to Patagonia, South America, I really invite you to do it. It's one of the great wonders of the world, and we've got to protect it. It's our responsibility, isn't it, for ourselves and our future generations. So I'm here basically primarily to express my grave concern about the Airport South Industrial Project. This is a lot of acres to take out of open space land. It's definitely going to be a detriment to the quality of life of Natomas in the area. It butts up against a school, 2 communities, West Lake, North Lake. It takes important land, open land, farmland, out of commission to be covered with asphalt, to invite semi-trucks, exhaust, light pollution, and incredible air pollution. So I ask you, as I know you are, and I want to thank you for your service, because this is volunteer and it's a gift to all of us. So please be our voices. Be the voice for wildlife, for the Natomas Basin, habitat, and for the future generations. And as you can tell, I do oppose this and hope that you'll take my comments seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, our next 3 commenters will have Susan Wilson, Pam Harder, and Heather Fargo. Please come to the podium.
Thank you. Good evening, Susan.
Good evening. I'm Susan Wilson. I'm also a resident at Heritage Park and oppose the Airport South Industrial Project. I chose to move to Heritage Park 2 years ago because I valued all the open space and habitat areas. During the fall, thousands of birds are in this area, which is absolutely amazing. With all the buildings and homes around the city and county of Sacramento, we need to maintain our existing habitat areas. With the development of this project, the birds would probably not feel safe in this area and we wouldn't see them again. With this project, there would also be additional traffic on the roads and highways and cause a lot of congestion. It's already a problem to get to and from Sacramento, downtown Sacramento, and if we added all that other traffic out there, it would be impossible. So I obviously oppose this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Pam Harder, and I do live in Heritage Park. I've been there about 4.5 years, and I'm shocked at the amount of development that has already taken place since I moved in. The traffic is so bad. I missed a cardiology appointment yesterday morning because I was stuck on the freeway and couldn't get there in time. So, and then if I go to Costco in Woodland, coming back on I-5, which will be right by where this is going, the truck traffic, you just sit there with all of those exhaust fumes going already. And furthermore, there's already huge amount of space dedicated an infrastructure in place for an industrial park on the other side of I-5, the Metro Parkway. And there are warehouses that have been constructed and have been vacant with for rent signs for months and months and months. So I don't see the need for more warehouses. I too am concerned about the residential proximity and the grade school and the air pollution, the noise pollution, along with the traffic congestion and paving over more open space. We already pay extra flood insurance because we're in a floodplain. And the more ground you cover, the less opportunity to absorb water. So you are putting, or this plan, not you, excuse me, this plan is just adding to that danger. And we already pay an extra amount for living in that floodplain. So I ask you, please, look at this carefully. There's a reason that boundary is set, and there's no need to move it. There's plenty of open space in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Desmond and Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you. My name is Heather Fargo. I'm the former mayor of Sacramento and was involved in establishing the Natomas Basin Conservancy when I was mayor, and so it's very near and dear to my heart, as is the open space and ag land in Natomas. I'm currently on the board of ECOS, and I'm chairing the Natomas team. So some of you have heard from me already regarding this project and several other projects in Natomas. And I'm here tonight to not only oppose the Airport South Industrial Project, but to really say that it's kind of shocking to me that we would be in a position of having to consider a project with such incredibly unavoidable, significant impacts that cannot be mitigated. So I'm hoping that in a final EIR you can come up with some mitigation. If not, I hope the answer is no to the sphere of influence change as well as the annexation and the project. As you can see from my other speakers, this is very personal for a lot of us. Many of us here tonight live in Natomas, and we live there because of the open space and because of the farmland and because of items like the strawberries we brought to you tonight, so you can have a taste of Natomas. And we do feel that this project is growth-inducing, and it doesn't seem to me that the EIR has addressed that as much as we see it. If this project is approved, this annexation is approved, it really kind of gives a green light to the other two larger projects. Collectively, those three projects are over 8,200 acres. That's 8,200 acres loss of farmland. That's an important piece of the county's economy is farmland, and it's an important piece of all of our quality of life to be near open space, support the flyway, support the Natomas Basin Conservancy. And I haven't really heard any good reasons to give up on all of the collaboration and coordination that was done for all the plans that you'd be saying no to if this goes forward. So thank you for the time. I'm out of time and appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Mayor Fargo.
Mr. Chair, our next three speakers are Susan, Jan, and Matthew. I didn't want to mutilate the last names.
Good evening, Susan.
Good evening, Chair Desmond and Commissioners, Executive Officer Henriquez, and staff. I'm Susan Hari. I'm the President of the Board of Directors of ECOS Environmental Council of Sacramento. You are now considering approval of the expansion of the sphere of influence and potentially the annexation of 450 acres to the city. And the developer of the proposed Airport South has set your commission in motion. But we would ask you to consider upholding two commitments to the sustainability of our region. They are the Sacramento County's urban service boundary from 1993 and the Natomas Basin Habitat Conservation Plan from 1997. The Airport South project and these two regional planning commitments are in conflict. The Airport South would be on land outside the urban services boundary and on agricultural land that is needed to support the Habitat Conservation Plan. And meanwhile, 2 other projects in the Natomas Basin, the Upper West Side and Grand Park, residential projects that are now in planning at Sacramento County, are also equally in conflict with the sustainability commitments for the USB and the Habitat Conservation Plan.
Ms. Susan,
However,
will you please wrap up your comments? Thank you.
You're almost done.
However, these projects will not come before you. So your decision on Airport South will be precedent-setting. And what will it say about us as a region if we toss aside 30-year-old sustainability commitments? And if we do toss them aside, what will that say about our will to achieve the 19% greenhouse gas reduction target that the state requires of us?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jan Shorey, and I'm a native Sacramentan. My husband and I have lived in our home in Natomas for 21 years now, and we will be directly across from these warehouses if you allow this project to move forward. We are original owners, and we bought our house and paid a premium for it because it was across from open space ag land, and our neighbors on our block did the same. Your job at LAFCo is by law to prevent urban sprawl and preserve open space and prime agricultural land. Your own guidebook and guidelines on your website say that your obligation is to guide development away from open space and prime agricultural land. This project will impact both. This is not a small project. The pictures you've seen tonight are a little misleading. It's about 1.7 miles to drive from that mini storage warehouse, the mini storage business at the edge of our subdivision, over to Pole Line Road. This is a big project if you're driving on Bayou Road. I drove over to Metro Air Park this weekend. That is on the north side, the other side of I-5. There is a lot of industrial land for sale, and it has been for sale for quite some time. There are also a lot of empty warehouses awaiting lease or sale. Warehouses are not unique and can be put on any industrial property anywhere in the city or in the county. My ask tonight is that you make an effort to go see this area before you vote on it. Your EIR concedes that this property fits the definition of prime agricultural land. It is being farmed now, and I'm going to give you pictures of the farming that's going on. You will set the stage to decide whether Sacramento will remain a county with agriculture, or will real estate speculators be buying up all of our farmland at prices far above the market and turn to you with easy expectation of rezoning? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next 3 speakers are Matthew, Judith, and Jim.
Go ahead, Matthew. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Matt Alden. I've lived in the Westlake neighborhood right by the open space for the last 20 years, and I'm appalled at this project being proposed. Sacramento is on swampland, and warehouses have no business being near any place of residence, let alone a school. We have a big problem already with light pollution. We have started having that ever since the Sacramento International Airport has started changing their lights back in 2017, multiplied by what's with Paso Verde and what's with North Lake and all these unsold warehouses that still have yet to be occupied. And now we're supposed to build more when we haven't even sold what we got. Light pollution, especially bright white lights, have a very detrimental impact on human circadian rhythm and animals. And as a result, we have seen less animals over the years since the changes have started being made, and the waterways and uses for farming are also taken away. As a result, we're seeing animals getting being wandering onto places where they don't belong. They're wandering in the roads, they're wandering onto houses. We have nice natural lights that we put on our house that are not going anywhere. We're going to keep those as long as we can. And as a result, we've actually started seeing animals that we've never seen before wander onto our yard. Noise pollution is also a big thing, because with all those trucks backing up at night, how are you going to mask that? So not only do we have noise pollution, but we also have we have air pollution right by the schools, and kids are supposed to breathe that stuff.
Excuse me, Mr. Alden, please wrap up your
So
comments.
in conclusion, we do not believe that this is an appropriate project. We believe that this should be considered elsewhere. There are open spaces up in the north, right near Elkhorn.
Can you please wrap up?
We should not be putting something that's not as thought out this close to a neighborhood and a school and on swampland.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to lecture you. I'm a lecturer. So, look, a purpose of an EIR is to disclose to the decision makers what are the impacts of the project. We expect you to read the 600 pages. We expect you to read it in light of the things that we have been bringing up tonight, our concerns. This is a huge job that's been laid upon you. So we have not finished reading the EIR, and we will do everything to shine light into the deep, dark parts of that EIR before July 17th and submit all the written comments. We will be in the process from beginning to end, but we're asking you, do your homework. This is a really important decision laid on you. Why? Why was this laid on you? Because a landowner petition to change an SOI is going to be given to LAFCo, and LAFCo will be the lead agency for the SOI. So why would the landowner come to you and ask you to make this decision instead of working through the city that it is expecting to join? What's wrong with going to the city in the general plan process? We just went through the general plan in the city. These folks had nothing to say in public. They were not present at the hearings. This city plan, general plan, does not include industrial land to the west, not thinking about annexing anything. So why are you the target here? I think you need to do a lot of studying and talking to people, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jim Paschal, representing the Friends of the Swenson's Hawk. However, tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about ducks. The Sacramento Airport and the project site are located beneath the Pacific Flyway, which is the avian equivalent of I-5. During the fall and winter, millions of waterfowl pass overhead and some stick around. Aircraft using the airport sometimes collide with geese and ducks, which can cause a crash. So far, it's not happened yet, but the airport is justifiably very concerned about it. Waterfowl are attracted to areas of open water, such as the project's detention basins, located about a mile or two from the southern end of the runway. The great majority of airport departures, by the way, are southward facing. The county airport correctly regards the proposed detention basins as a hazard by attracting waterfowl into the path of airplanes approaching or departing on the runways. Migrating geese and ducks often fly at night. Waterfowl sucked into a jet engine can destroy the engine and cause a crash. The detention basins will, by necessity, be quite large. The project site is the bottom of former American Lake. Water flows onto the site from all directions during the rainy season, which is when the ducks and geese are migrating in the area. This project, with detention basins so close to the end of the runways, will increase the likelihood of a tragedy caused by waterfowl collision. The airport is very concerned about this. A possible consequence of a waterfowl-caused crash might be strict FAA limitations on future airport operations.
Mr. Jim?
This project need not be at this risky location and can be located elsewhere, such as maybe across the street at Metro Air Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I've stated there were 29. There were actually 17 of those were written public comments. So our last speaker slip that I have is for Mr. Giovanni.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Giovanni Ottolini. I'm a field rep for Carpenters Local 46 here in Sacramento. I represent over 3,000 hardworking men and women, the Sacramento area. I appreciate all the testimony from the residents of the area. I shared the same concerns with them. Unfortunately, development is inevitable, and to preserve that is unrealistic. The jobs that this project will potentially create will help reduce greenhouse gases by allowing the members of the community that are going to be living here because of our RENA obligations. The housing's coming. Where are the jobs going to be for those people that the housing is being built for? We can have them drive farther out of the community and increase the greenhouse emissions, or we can have them working closer to home in Sacramento. That's what Carpenters Local 46 supports. Working closer to home. Again, the other added benefit of that is the reduced greenhouse emissions. So I'm anxious to see how this project moves forward and the opportunities for members of the community and my brothers and sisters to be able to work closer to home and reducing the carbon emissions footprint. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that completes our public comment.
Tamika, is that complete? We do not have any more speaker slips. That completes our public comment.
Okay. Thank you, and I really thank everybody who took the time to come out here tonight. It was important for us to hear from all of you, but more important, all of your comments will be incorporated into the responses to the EIR. So now I'll look to my colleagues on the commission. Any comments or questions from commissioners relating to item 5? Okay, I don't see any. And this was a receive and file, or I guess receive and incorporate into the comment record. So I will give you one more bite at the apple then, Mr. Executive Officer, if you have any closing comments.
Just wanted to, again, reiterate for the public that the process is that sometime in the fall, the Commission will consider the targeted MSR and the SOI, as well as the final EIR that incorporates all these comments. This is a public hearing. It's subject to a 21 days public notice. So for those who are concerned folks, check our website. It has to be posted on our website at our office, and it'll also be posted at the daily recorder, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Should the commission approve it, then it goes to the city for land use entitlements. That's also a public hearing, subject to the public notice requirements that the city is under. Again, land use entitlements will be considered, as well as tentative map, as well as the consideration of applying to LAFCo to reorganize the site. Should the city approve all those things and petition LAFCo, then it comes back to LAFCo for another public hearing, and also subject to a 21 days notice. And I can't give you any firm dates. I can only tell you that probably the fall would be around the time that the SOI will be considered. So September, October meeting, most likely.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jones.
Are we on to commissioner comments?
Yes.
Quite yet? Thank you. Short and sweet, I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners for supporting me in my continued representation on the LAFCo Board of Directors. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. You represent us well. Any other commissioners with comments? Okay, seeing none, that concludes our business. We are adjourned at 6:54.